that problem. Get our currency to be stronger. Once we do that, these people shipping our grains that we produce across the border, they will be discouraged, because what will you then want to do that? Then, of course, added to the need for the governors to do a lot more,
right,
is the need to make inputs readily available, even for free. Give farmers quality seedlings for free, and it is possible. I just returned from Kogi, in a town called Geregu. In Geregu, government has set aside 600 hectares, one farmer to 1 hectare. I saw women younger than you, each person has his own hectare, and they come together to help in planting. You will see the videos. You are joining. Once it's your turn to plant, everybody jumps in, they help you. There is an equipment that they use to roll over the ground that will be digging the holes. And then they join you, they help you to plant. When it's your turn, others moving, they are planting rice, especially, but they also have beans, corn, and others. And there are tube wells to allow for all year-round farming. You know, Kogi has a lot of water bodies. In that Geregu alone, they have River Niger. They have lakes. So all the government needs to do, help build roads that make those farms accessible, provide the grains, the seedlings that they need to plant, provide those seedlings, high-yield seedlings, provide fertilizers at subsidized rate. Right. What usually happens in our country is that they make available fertilizers to farmers, but the fertilizers come usually too late. By the time the fertilizer comes, the farmers say, no, there's no need. We don't. The planting season is over. The planting season is over. You know, time waits for nobody. Absolutely. So if we can do this, the incentive to farm will be there, because I listen to people in Kogi, and those women were saying, we thank God, this is the first governor that will come to our community, and he has come to tractorize our rice fields, help us tractorize them. They've already tractorized 300 hectares out of 500 hectares.
I want to say to this is everything he said was spot on, and it is right. For me, I feel like if we're going to live in environments where there's protection, there's clean energy, there's a disarmament, there's disbandings, crossing guards exist, tutors exist, educators exist, qualified judges exist, we can get by very easily, because that contract has been ran out, where we're in a position where everything is dependent on proof of death. When you're talking about insurance or insurers, that contract has been ran out. We shouldn't be living in cities where the equipment exists and we can't use it. We can't be living in cities where there's not enough productivity where we can get the job done, as far as like making sure our ecosystem near us is very clean and very pure and is running very efficiently. We shouldn't have service workers coming out to fix on projects lasting days out because of a shortage. We shouldn't be having those problems. We are not necessarily people who should be relying on grocery markets. I was saying that there was a time where we were young in the 20s where we could walk to the store in Detroit, in Chicago, in Milwaukee, in New Jersey, in Boston, in New York, and play an arcade game and walk back out and go a mile back to where we came from at 8, 7, 9 years old and go home. Okay, those were the times where we could actually have done that. And unfortunately, we can't do that now because we're in a generation where we have Gen Xers who have dropped the ball, baby boomers, their parents, the traditionals, the silent generation, they're no longer here. So we are in a disguised position where we need to figure out how can we get these business acumens back in order. And for me, I feel like we can do it within a timely manner. It's just going to take some time. We have to figure out how can we get more skilled trades within our communities. How can we get people to participate, to come out to engage in this sense? Now you can see Africa, they have a very bright future. And so do we, because we're one and the same. We have Africans such as myself, we live amongst Americans, however you should qualify to call yourself. And then that goes back to a child has a right to a name, and a child has a right to a nationality, and a child has a right to medicine. So we can see they are very productive as far as making sure the conversation is on the table as far as clean energy, solar intervention. They're making it very loud and clear that they are championing this conversation where they want to be involved. Okay? They have a 24/7 hour network where in cities in America where we have capital and we can't get it done. We file for bankruptcy. We don't necessarily file for borrower's loss. So that lets me know right there, we have the money. We just can't get to it because there's an argument amongst the parties involved. There's a Democrat seat, there's a Republican seat, there's an independent seat, there's a Purple Party seat, there's a Green Party seat, there's a Boston Tea Party seat. There's all these parties, and none of these people can figure out how can we get on the same page and make sure that we have a just society where one doesn't have more than the other. We shouldn't have stockpile guns, bands of guns. We shouldn't have that. That should be a ban on that type of stuff. No one's going to go outside and walk around and enjoy the fruits of that labor if they're living in a community where everything is up for sale. Everything is unborrowed. Everything is not based on etiquette. Everything is not based on justice. No one's going to want to be involved in that. So that's where you're going to have plague and disease and sickness, because it's happening right now. It's 90 degrees outside. No children are outside playing. That is an issue. That is a big issue. So let's get back to see what they're saying and see how we can figure out how the best solution is that we can get to this job and get it done, because we need to see. And the guy right here, he has a lot of good advice. He's very mature, very wise in his years. So he understands how this should be done. He understands it quite frequently. He understands it. So now they're talking about food insecurity. So let's see what he has to say.
All those extortionists, soldiers, and policemen, the cost will have quadrupled.
In geometric progression.
So it also reinforces the point that it is not that there is no food. But a lot of our people can't afford because of...
there's no family. There's no family. It's the distribution. It's the cost of getting to the people.
And you're talking about...
And a lot of farm produce even rot away in the rural areas because of bad roads.
There's no route.
So there's a need to fix those state and interstate roads.
Right.
So that farm produce can move freely. I saw a bucket of
tomato,
oranges
along the road
in Boko. Yes. You see how cheap it is. And I say, yeah, oh God. If we can find a way to move produce at a more cheaper rate to different parts of our country, I'm sure it will also help us achieve stability.
In food prices. Yeah, and you mentioned the issue of tomatoes, and majority of us rely on. When I say the tomatoes comes largely from the north, we have the tomatoes, the onions, and all of that. But then again, one would ask, why can't we grow those crops right here? Because we have the soil, we have the land.
Let me tell you something. We have mentioned it. It's because we abandoned the land. Look, my late mom, she was major onion seller. I understand that. She normally travels to Ibadan, where they bring it from the north, and bring it to Abeokuta. That was the only item I know. It was coming from the north when I was very young. Tomato here is round like this.
Yes.
Tomato. This is white.
Right.
We are doing it, but because oil came in 1970, and our sense of reasoning and our leaders, they went mad. We are no more planning again. Because all these things, we are growing them here. Except onion, and because of the land of the north, onion grows better in the northern part of Nigeria. You cannot even grow it here. It's not on commercial business here. But I'm telling you, beans, white beans. When last have you seen white beans here again? That disappear. So it is because of the lack of will on the part of the leadership. And I blame more because I don't like always saying that about the president, everything. Who are those people who are in control of land in Nigeria? State governors are in control of land in Nigeria. And each of the state governors have the capacity to do whatever they want to do. Let them yes, I understand that you cannot handle a brick. Government cannot go into business. But government can provide infrastructure. Look at most of the states in the Southwest. I can say this thing. No state in the Southwest has any reason to go and build the airport. Ekiti State building airport, Ogun State building airport. 90% of the roads, rural roads, that can bring food to the major centers, they are in bad shape. And you are building airport for who? Now, Ogun State was giving an excuse that they want to be producing food. Before you can bring your produce to the airport, where is the road that all the cultural airport, you want to say it's a cargo airport. Cargo of what? Is it cargo of cassava, or cargo of yam, or cargo of, I don't know what, or cargo of rice. It's a misplaced priority. Let them go and, no Babangida until he missed the road in 1990. Babangida met well with the D3. They were tarring all nooks and crannies of Nigeria to close the gap between the rural areas. Because they are really our food basket. But when there's no road, like you said, now, as we talk now, when you go to Ibadan to get there, you can still get a bunch of banana for 250 naira. When you bring that banana to Lagos, it cannot be less than 5,000. I am telling you. So our people are actually active, but there's no road to bring those things. Travel to all look at it for local government, some of the biggest local governments in Nigeria. There's no single road. That Coca farm settlement, one of the oldest in Nigeria, is in for local government. And before that Coca, before you get to Coca, thank God for Governor Shoba who started that road from Ifo down to Coca. That the road that leads to President Obasanjo's village. So I think that our government should focus more on building internal roads, link roads within the state. Right. Leave the highway to the federal government. So the full production bed of all these things. We have more rural areas up till now. Let them construct even if you cannot construct, now that Dangote has come up with their option that it is more better and cheaper to construct road with concrete than using bitumen. Spending our scarce foreign exchange on bitumen. In Ogun State, they have about 5 cement plants in Ibeshi, Shagamu, and the Ewe Korovia. They have been there for ages. Let them be using that thing to construct link roads in the rural areas. Because there is no way, no economy that can take place except the rural areas are linked to the urban centers.
Right.
So we need to. It's unfortunate that people have no vision. When I came in 1979, sorry to take it back, he said, free education, free health services, integrated rural development and full employment. But now, that integrated rural development is lacking in all parts of Nigeria. Instead of building esoteric projects all over the place, let our governors, all parts of Nigeria, let them concentrate 60% of the budget for road construction in the rural areas so that food can come out. When food can come out to the main towns, then you can guarantee that it will be cheaper those days. But now, the reverse is the case. So the only thing we can do is to let us construct as many roads as possible. Infrastructural development in the area. So when you provide infrastructure, you are indirectly bringing the price of things down. Like Fashola used to say that when you construct road,
Now they both make valid points again. I would even go further as to say in their support, as far as like stopping food security and the rise of costs and the intervention and orchestration of agriculture, because he was mentioning like rural areas and how it is at a disadvantage due to the rising cost of intruders and stuff like that and exploitation. I would say this. The world needs a one world currency. We need to be backed by gold, we need to be backed by silver, and we need to be backed by copper. Silver is for something such as, paying zakat, or, as they say in Islam, making a donation every month for your chores and, for your forgiveness of humanity and their errors and stuff like that. That's what we need. And for copper, that can be done for like that could be like a human trade, as far as starting on how to learn how to do commerce, like for kids where they can like buy stuff with copper. That can be done, just buy like knickknacks, your daily expenses, buy stuff with copper. And then for like gold can be done with like huge trades. You need a couple acres lawnmower, give some gold for it. Because right now we don't know who has what type of equipment and how they're getting it. We don't know if it's a money machine printing every second in somebody's house that's causing this much inflation. Why do you need more than one share in a company if there's not, you see what I mean? Like if it's not that much inflation happening, and it is. Okay, when we're talking about bailments and we're talking about the rights of who can assign property, who can excuse non-returns and stuff like that, work orders, like shipment papers and stuff like that, maritime law, how can we need to make sure everything is local within our villages. We don't need this much trade just to get a piece of paper, just to say we have a fiat note. I don't know who wants to put in all this labor. Like I look at Social Security, for example, Social Security credits. If you even have one credit, with this much inflation, you should have $1,000 in your bank account every second, just for a Social Security credit. Okay, so that can stop a lot of problems right now. So the answer to a lot of our woes and a lot of our problems, they're right here and direct in front of us. Okay, they're right here and direct in front of us. Like, I don't see what the issue is as far as like getting resources to get out there and start the work. You don't need paper. You just need accessibility. Okay, and I think Vladimir Putin, he's doing a good job as far as like talking about the injustices that are happening in the world, as far as the war casualties that's been occurred by independent nations like Ukraine, who are based on nationalism, and more so United States, because they have a good partnership with China and some of the Eurasian countries. So if we want to back a nation, we need to back China, we need to back African countries, and we need to back Russia. We need to back Palestine. We need to back everybody who is on this one-part system where we need a global cooperation so families can begin to meet, interfamilies can meet. We don't need nationalism so much unless it's going to be for the greater purpose. But so let's continue to see what they have to say.
As the police scared away scores of youths who stormed the premises to protest. The youth said they were at the Secretariat for a peaceful demonstration against the immediate past council chairman, whom they claimed refused to vacate office after the expiration of their tenure. Tunde,
well, it's a catch-22 situation. Naturally, when you look at the brief that the federal government, through the Attorney General, went to court, Supreme Court, to declare that any local...
Now, he just mentioned the Attorney General. Now, these people, they get out into the street. They don't necessarily cause havoc as far as like breaking things and destroying things and stuff like that. They do it peacefully. They honor and respect their leaders, their elders, their service members, their service connections. They respect all of that, right? The thing is that when you have a multi-collateral society, the human begins to be the collateral. We can't have people living next door to each other that don't look alike and they don't speak to one another. Everybody in these villages in Africa, they know each other and where their parents and fathers and mothers and uncles and aunties, they know everybody and where they come from. Okay? They speak the same language. All right? So I just want to be very pointed in this. Food insecurity, youth clashes with police. If we want to achieve a greatness in far as where we're headed in this fast-paced society, we have to let things just be. We can't interrupt people who have a say in whatever they want to include themselves in, because again, that's a right to your medicine. That's a right to your society. That's a right to your language. That's a right to your village. That's a right to your home. That's a right to your security. We can't necessarily knock them off their swivel. We have to support them and give them every resource and demand in which they want. Because I can remember coming up under baby boomers, I didn't have a say in anything. Okay? Congresswoman Sheila Lee, she's like the prototype for baby boomers. She's still serving. She serves on a financial committee. We don't have a say in what their affairs are and what they do, because there's not much inclusion. All right, so if we want to get things done, we have to let the youth speak. We have to let the youth get involved, because the youth there, when you're in your 18, 19, 20 years, your young adult years, you have the most fluidity in your brain, the most intervention than any capability out there that can be sensed. Okay, I'm not saying that you're in your 50s and you're in your 60s, you don't have much capability as to think. It's just when you're in your younger years, you have a better outlook as to what is and what will be. Because if you're in your 50s and 60s, you only have like 40, 30 more years to live. All right, so there's a gap, a gender gap. There's a cultural gap. We need to meet those quotas as soon as possible. So let's see what else they have to say about what's going on and the politics of world politics.
The local government chairman packing by way of caretaker, because they knew that was what he wanted to do. There should be no reason in the world for governors to have the power to usurp
The powers of the
the
local government.
authority and the running of local governments. Local governments should be able to run as another tier of government. That is what the Constitution
Consensus.
envisages. The way you are elected is the way they are elected.
Elected by the people.
Don't bring
Perfect said, the way you are elected is the way you are elected. Perfect. Perfect. I completely agree with their stance on all of this. Okay? Now, we have loss of life in the States. We have loss of life abroad, in Africa, for insurance costs, insurance purposes. I don't say we need to retaliate. We don't need to waive payments. We need to forfeit policy. Because when we forfeit policy, we have to induct our children. You know, we have to claim loss. We have beneficiaries. Okay, we have an affected population. There's a war going on right now in Yemen. There's a war going on right now in Palestine and Israel. Why are they arguing over what that land is called when you can call it what you want? It means the same language. As far as I'm concerned, synonym or an antonym is a Palestine and Israel. They both have vowels in them words. So it's the same word, means good. So what is the issue about? All right?
Speaker. They are linked together. You get the point that I'm making? Martin extended the tenure of
Local government.
local government chairman. It's not the first. It's not. State is not the first where it has happened. They've had tenures even in the north, even in Lagos here. In Lagos, local government chairman, they used to spend 3 years in office. Have you ever? And the assembly passed the law extending their tenure by 1 year.
So that they can be there when the governor is conducting another election.
They did it. I think it was during Ambode. We know these things. So extension of tenure. If you are saying, okay, Martin, you defected, although they are denying that they defected. If the courts say, well, Martin and others are still assembly members, it means that everything that they did is valid. So all that is required is for these people to calm down, let the judiciary resolve this matter. This indecent hate can lead ultimately to violence. And I had one of the chairmen, I think it was Roland Sekibo, the chairman of Akokutoru local government. He said, those who want to be caretaker chairman, just endure. Those who want to be council chairman, just endure. You're already at court of appeal. It won't take long again. So judgment, it won't take long again for judgment to come. Whichever way the case goes, it will go to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
If I were Fubara, I would have done an election a long time ago.
Yes, now.
What will happen in an election? You are the governor. Your mates, they write the results.
Yes, now. You understand?
I mean,
Because
And see, the thing that I like about Africa and their politics is that they don't do everything by the book. They do everything by the sense, if you understand what I'm saying. If there needs to be an election, there will be an election. If there needs to be a public lynching, there will be a public lynching. If there needs to be an expression made before a podium, there will be an expression made before a podium. They understand the gist and how to do it. So does Asia politics. They understand it very well. Very, very well. When you talk about Mao Zedong and them, they understand it very, very well. Now, when we look at authority and we look at the presidents and we look at judges, we need to dismember all of these corporations. We don't need people sitting on boards who don't talk to one another, who have a secret hate for one another, who have a secret intimacy with a secretary who sits on a board. We don't need any of that. That's why every time I vote, when it's time to come up for stocks, for stock boards, for stakeholder, I always vote against. I never vote for the members that are on the board. Now, sometimes in the past I did, but like now I don't do that anymore. I don't do it. Because a lot has been done and a lot has been seen and a lot has been forsaken for. We can't have capital just sitting out there and it's being mismanaged. If something needs to be torn down, something needs to be built, we need to get right on it right away. There's workers out here that's qualified. Skill, if there's a graduation every 12 months, right? So skill doesn't lack. Skill only wanes. Okay, so we don't have people who lack skilled labor. That's not the case. We have very skilled workers out here who can get stuff done just immediate by a contract done. So I'm going to go ahead and close out and I'll come back with another video. But read up on the politics. ECOWAS is doing a good job. BRICS is doing a good job. NATO is trying to do a good job. We need to read up on everything that's going on, and we need to come to senses with what's happening right now because we can't keep throwing away generations. So on that note, you all have a blessed one.